Hi BC, it's Rob here with another video, and it's vinyl tag time. So vinyl tag 2020. I did the vinyl tag last year. I've been on VC for nearly a year now, and if you're not a member of the vinyl community, you've never done a video before, then the vinyl tag's a really good way of sort of introducing yourself to the vinyl community. 20 questions gives us a bit of detail about your collection, and if you've never done a video before, then you'll find nothing but encouragement by people on the VC, because we love new channels. Everyone's really welcoming, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun as well. So the vinyl tag for 2020, and the first question is the best find. So I'm going with this one, Still Bill Withers. I picked this up from a car boot sale for a couple of pounds. So in the summer I tend to go to car boot sales whenever I can. You never know what you're going to find, a bit like flea markets in America. The vinyl isn't as prevalent as it was, in the late 80s and in the 90s, where you could pick up some great stuff. These days it's not as easy, but you do pick up the odd gem. So yeah, I was really pleased to pick up this Bill Withers album. So yeah, Still Bill by Bill Withers is my best find. Now, favourite album from 2019. I've done a video, my top 10 releases from 2019, and this was my number one, and it's W.H. Lung, and this album's called Incidental Music, and it's a double album that plays at 45. There's 8 tracks on this album, and some of the tracks are well into 8 minutes long, 10 minutes long. 3 guys from Manchester, debut album. Sort of reminds me a little bit of Joy Division, New Order, with a little bit of Stone Roses mixed in with it. So yeah, a really great debut album by a band I'm hoping to see this year. So yeah, W.H. Lung, my favourite album from 2019, and it's called Incidental Music. Now, novelty record. Well, I don't really have many novelty records, if any at all really. I was actually at a record phase today, and I was nearly buying a record just for this question, and this one is one I actually bought. It was a toss-up between a Morecambe and Wise album, Pinky and Perky, or this album. So it's a Top of the Pops album. I think it's from maybe 1972. It's got Come On Feel the Noise, Love Train, Tie Yellow Ribbon. I mean, the covers are always really striking. It's on the Pickwick label. So on here it just says Top of the Pops, consistently Britain's best-selling LP. And when I was growing up, sort of when I was like 7, 8, in the sort of mid 70s, corner shops used to sell these albums, and I remember buying one, taking it home, listening to it, and it's not the original artist, it's just sort of backing singers. But there's people on the VC who have got every single one of these albums. I think there's over 100 of them. So I think they started doing them at the big sort of late 60s, well into the 1980s. So yeah, this is my second Top of the Pops album. Now, homage cover. So I was struggling a little bit with this, but so this is Sound Effects. So this is a BBC record, and I was looking at this because I can't really remember ever playing with it. So there's all sorts of sort of sound effects, from ambulances and taxis and children playing on a sports day and cheering, household sounds, flushing implements, summer backgrounds, gunfire, lawn mowers, a bit of everything on this. I really should play it sometime. But so yeah, sound effects, and of course sound effects by the Jam. So it obviously sort of takes that image and uses it on that great 1980 Jam album. B-side or deep cut. So I've decided to choose the Oasis B-side for Some Might Say, and it's a track called Talk Tonight. So Oasis were pretty old-fashioned in the fact that they used to release really good B-sides, and I did buy a lot of the 7-inch singles by Oasis when they came out, so they're quite valuable now. So there's a nice one. Talk Tonight, the B-side to Some Might Say. Now, something funky. So what about the Parcels? So I spoke about these guys before. This album's from 2018, an album that I'm heavily into in 2019. Comes on this sort of nice, and they're Australian, the Parcels. They went over to Berlin a few years ago and teamed up with Daft Punk, and recorded this album, which tracks like Lighten Up. It's really funky music. It's something that I've been really enjoying over the last sort of 12 months. So yeah, the Parcels, self-titled album, and that's funky as hell. Now, Shelf Buddies. So the Knack, next to King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard. So yeah, interesting Shelf Buddies. Seen them live. So the Beach Boys. So I saw the Beach Boys in, I think it was 2008. I took my son. He was only about 11, maybe 12. It was his first ever concert, and I kind of brainwashed him into liking the Beach Boys. He used to play sort of CDs in the car, and he got to know some pretty obscure Beach Boys tracks from albums like Friends, and I took him to see sort of the Beach Boys featuring Al Jardine, Bruce Johnson and Mike Love, and a great array of backing singers and musicians. Put on such a great show. It was a really good gig, and my son, when he tells his friends that his first gig with the Beach Boys, when he was younger, maybe he was a bit embarrassed, but now it seemed as being pretty cool. So yeah, and it was a really good gig. Really pleased that even though it wasn't obviously the kind of original Beach Boys, sort of three of the Beach Boys were there. So yeah, Beach Boys, I was there. Now, Wish I Had Original. So the White Album. So I didn't speak about this that much. This year I've received 2 lots of VCLT from Randall Weaver. Sent me Dark Side of the Moon. Thanks, Randy. And Matt Hayes, I sent him some goodies, and such a surprise when he sent me the White Album out of the blue. And this package, of course, the Giles Martin sort of re-recorded, and it comes with some really nice photographs. And this album is probably, the White Album is probably in the top 10 albums for me now. I've listened to it a lot. It comes with a booklet as well, kind of a poster as well. And it was so generous of Matt, so unexpected. And this turns into a poster and it's got lyrics. It's a really nice package. I've been pretty ignorant about the White Album. I knew a lot of tracks off it when I actually played it, but there were tracks on there that I've never heard before. thanks again, Matt, really generous. Another great thing about the VC is people send people VCLT, and you get such a warm feeling when you send it as well as when you receive it. So again, thanks, Matt, and I'd love to have an original first pressing of the White Album. So yeah. Now discography. So I've got pretty much all the Steely Dan albums. So from sort of the first album to what they've released, sort of the late 70s. So I've kind of recently purchased Katie Lied. That's just the greatest hits. It's always nice to have though. Pretzel Logic, Asia. Which one's this? Oh yeah, they're all Scam. Countdown to Ecstasy, Gaucho, and Can't Buy a Thrill. So a couple of them are represses, but yeah, some of the sort of later Steely Dan albums I don't have, but I mean I've got CDs by a lot of bands, but I think that's probably the vinyl the most I've got. Maybe Beach Boys as well. I've got a lot of vinyl by them, but there's a lot missing as well. Unique label. So I've chosen the Gang of Four, the album Entertainment, but I always like this label 4 that they use. So Gang of Four from Leeds, one of the best albums from 1979 for sure is Entertainment. Pre-band, so someone who was in a band and then they went on to be more famous with another band. So I've chosen Mick Talbot, who was in the Style Council with Paul Weller, but he used to be in a band called the Merton Parkers. So there's Mick, and then he's behind, so about the glare there, that's Mick. So yeah, Mick Talbot from the Merton Parkers, and this song called You Need Wheels. Went on to join Paul Weller in the Style Council. Book or film? So book or film. So I've chosen this book. It's a real sort of fun book really, and it just answers questions from songs. So it's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? And it actually answers that question. So things like do you know the way to San Jose? So it actually goes into a description of where San Jose is, and do you know the way there? And there's all sorts of funny, Would I Lie to You by the Eurythmics, I think that is, or Charles and Eddie. What becomes of the broken hearted? So it'll go into all different sort of answers to that question. Am I a creep? It's a really good book to sort of have on your holidays or read on the toilet really. What compares to you? What else is there? Will It Be Lonely This Christmas? What else is here? Where is 24 Hours from Tulsa? So you get the idea. It's a real fun book actually. So I think my son got me this. So yeah, really good book. Underrated album. So Michael Kiwanuka. I've seen a lot of people talk about his new album, but this is his debut album, Home Again, from 2012. And I can remember seeing him on TV performing this, and it made me go out and buy the album. And this is a really strong sort of debut album. On this showed how much potential he had. When you listen to it, it just sounds like you can hear kind of Bill Withers, people like that. But tracks like I'm Getting Ready and Tell Me a Tale, it's a great album with a lovely flow to it, so I think it's a bit underrated, and if you've not got it, I really recommend it. So Home Again by Michael Kiwanuka. Batting average, so a consistent band. So I've chosen Elbow. So this is Little Fictions from, I think it's from 2017. I do have Giants of All Sizes, the new album, but I've got a bit of a thing that any albums that I've got on CD, I don't really want to buy them on vinyl if I've already got them on CD. But these are great albums. Build a Rocket Ship. This one, if you've not heard Elbow before and you want to dip your toe in, I really recommend Seldom Seen Kid. The album before Seldom Seen Kid was Leaders of the Free World. Cast of Thousands, that's the second album, and Asleep in the Back, that's a debut album. So in America, I know Elbow aren't that well known. Sort of moody, great lyrics, great songwriter, Guy Garvey, and if you're not aware of Elbow, I really recommend you check them out. Same album, different cover. I did struggle a little bit with this one. I've been searching. I've gone with this album, so Cool for Cats by Squeeze, and there's two more that are exactly the same, only different colours. So there's a yellow one and there's a purple one, and I was in a record shop last week and they had the yellow Cool for Cats, and I think it was £6 or £7, and I should have picked it up because I want to get all three and then maybe display them behind me. So this is one of the three Cool for Cats albums. Cheap album, now worth a bit of money. So I'm not on Discogs, so I'm not really aware of the value of my collection at all. It doesn't really interest me, but I picked this album up from a car boot sale this year. Stay with the Hollies debut album, and this was in a box of, you know, what you class as, you wouldn't even look in the box, but you know, I always look, you never know. And I actually saw this in a record shop a few weeks later for about £40, so I don't think it's worth that, but it's certainly worth more than 50p. So yeah, Stay with the Hollies. A drummer, so favourite drummer, so I've chosen Jackie Lieberzen from Can. So yeah, Tago Mago is this album, and I've had Can CDs for a while, but they weren't something that I played that often. But on vinyl, take on a new lease of life. I mean, Jackie was sort of a jazz drummer, but he was one of the main sort of, to give Can their sort of avant-garde distinctive sound, which that sort of electronic krautrock sound is something I'm really getting into. Yeah, I thought I'd give Jackie a bit of a plug. He died a couple of years ago. I think he was 78 years of age. So yeah, favourite drummer is Jackie Lieberzen. An album turning 20, so decided to choose Coldplay and Parachutes. So Parachutes, I remember when it came out, I loved it. I like all the tracks on this album, especially Everything's Not Lost, but I don't think there's a bad track on this album. I know not many people show Coldplay, talk about Coldplay on the VC. I mean, the most recent album that came out a few weeks ago, Not Pulling Up Any Trees With Me, I've listened to it sort of on and off, but not that impressed with it. But no denying that Parachutes is a great album, and it's from the year 2000. And finally, a trilogy, so 3 albums that are connected. So I thought I'd show the first 3 albums by Public Service Broadcasting. So this album's called Inform, Educate and Entertain. I think this one came out about 2013. So what public service broadcasting do is they use sort of library recordings and set them to sort of electronic music, really exciting music, thought-provoking. On this album we've got Spitfire and we've got Climbing Up Everest. We've got Night Mail about delivering letters and on the Royal Mail. Really interesting album. So this was the first album that was released, and then they went from that sort of concept to another one, which was the Race for Space. So I think this one's from 2015. So this has like two sides to it. It's like, and it does what it says on the tin really. It's all about America and Russia's space race. So there's tracks on here called, there's the tracks. The track's called Sputnik and Gagarin, Race for Space, Fire in the Cockpit, Go. Great album. Again, using sort of voices from the Kennedy Space Center to sort of a backbeat. And then third album that came out in 2017 is Edwy Valley. So this is all about coal mining communities in South Wales, which doesn't sound very sexy or interesting, but it actually is really moving. There's a Welsh male voice choir, and it just speaks to everyday people about their experiences living in South Wales and how important the coal mines were. So there's some of the track listing. Manic Street Preachers actually appear. They're a Welsh band, so I'm sure they wanted to sort of lend their support to this album. The track's called The Pit and People Will Always Need Coal. If you're not aware of these albums, I really recommend them. 3 great albums. So that's the end of the vinyl tag. One of the questions that sort of at the end that people are sort of adding on is shout outs. Now I spend a lot of time watching the VC, the vinyl community. There must be 40 or 50 channels that I watch regularly, and I could sit here and talk about them for well over an hour. I've just thought I'd mention 3 channels. So these are 3 channels that this year I feel have really sort of stepped up. You know, if you're not one of these 3, I'm sure you won't be offended. So the first one I want to talk about is Cosmic Vinyl, Brian. He kind of joined the VC, I think, at a similar time to me, and he's just such a character. Always makes me smile. Comes on goofing around, but he's got a serious side. You know, he's had health issues last year, but he's such an engaging person. I love his enthusiasm, and I think he really loves the vinyl community, being part of it. So the vinyl community is such a special thing. Once you get into it, either if you're not actually part of it, you're watching the videos. If you haven't done a video for a week or 2, just watching other people's videos, it's a great thing. And Brian is just so infectious, his personality. So I just wanted to give Brian, he's not a massive channel, but I just love his output. The next person I want to talk about is Rich McCook. So Richard joined the VC just slightly after me, maybe a week after me, but I think we kind of found each other very quickly. And Richard throughout the year has had such consistent videos. You know, he always uploads videos, maybe at least 2 a week, sometimes more than that. Always entertaining, always interesting, and he tells it how he is. He's not frightened of showing. He's as passionate about David Bowie as he is, talking about the Wombles. He's got such a love for music. He's got an incredible collection. I just want to say, Richard, what a year you had last year. He didn't run a contest to boost his subscribers, but his subscribers are growing on a weekly basis, and that's just down to you, Richard, for the hard work you put into your channel, and it's just so entertaining, and I love every video you do. And the last person I want to talk about is Mazzy, so Noah Maslov. Again, just what I love about Mazzy is just his output of videos so consistent, and he puts so many videos out as well. It's impossible to keep up really. But I love his whack-a-moles, and I love how he buys new music, and to have the confidence to just turn around and pick a record out from your collection, and his collection is phenomenal, and it's growing. It's growing all the time, and it's just his love of music. He just loves music, and he comes across as a genuinely lovely guy, and I'm sure most people on the VC would hold him in high esteem. He had a great year last year, and I look forward to more and more videos from Mazzy. So they're just three. I could shout out well over 30 or 40, but I thought I'd just leave it to three. Yeah, I've enjoyed doing a vinyl tag. If you got any comments, if you're a new subscriber, thanks for subscribing to my channel. If you're an old subscriber, thanks for hanging in there, and let's make 2020 a good one. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching this video, and bye for now.